Welcome to the Fantasy Football Prophet Podcast, hosted by Craig Phillips and Jeff Torrey. Visit us at fantasyfootballprophet.com. And now your hosts, Craig and Jeff.
Welcome everyone to the Fantasy Football Prophet Podcast. I'm Craig Phillips, joined as always by Jeff Torrey. And today we're continuing our rankings episodes. We're going to do running backs today. Not the full list, but we're doing our top 20 today. Get you an idea what we're looking at right now in our top 20 running backs for the season. Before we do that, make sure you guys go check us out everywhere on Instagram, instagram.com/fantasyfootballprophet. You can go to Twitter, twitter.com/theFFprophet, youtube.com/fantasyfootballprophet. Also, go check out our Discord. The link I can't really say. It's like random letters and numbers. Go to our Instagram. It's there. Go to the notes of wherever you're listening to this. It should be there as well. Go join us there as well. Let's do this. Let's see here. Do I got the list? I lost it. All right, here we go, Jeff. I got it. Top 20. Number 1, Jonathan Taylor. No surprise. I don't even think we really need to go over that one very much, right? Jonathan Taylor's number 1. He's consensus number 1 everywhere this year. Yeah. So simple. He was great. There's no need to doubt it. If you have number 1 pick, it's a no doubter. Don't think twice. Pick Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah,
simple as that.
And just like our QB list, I feel like he is on a tier on his own.
Yep. 100%. Easy. This is no-brainer this year. Simple. This is where it gets a little interesting because people I've seen these next couple picks can go everywhere. And I think there's everyone has their strengths, weaknesses, whatever. So it's kind of interesting to see how it plays out. But our number 2, because we're combining our ranks is what we're doing here and seeing the average of where they end up. We both had Taylor number 1, obviously. Number 2 becomes Austin Eckler, becomes our number 2. He is my 2 and you're 3. So I'll say the reason
I'm okay with that.
And part of it became me when I was looking at this, over our next guys on the list was more injury concerns. Everyone has injury concerns, I feel like. I just felt more comfortable with Austin Eckler's role, and I never thought I'd get to this point. I don't necessarily love it, but I just felt more comfortable with him if I'm at number 2. I don't know how I'll feel draft day picking Austin Eckler at number 2 if I had it, but as of right now, part of that will probably, let's say, Derrick Henry's health and how he's looking is going to factor in a lot with that. And if he looks like this guy, the foot injury is nothing, maybe he can move up. Because I'll say Henry is our 3rd.
Yeah. And before we move on to Henry, Eckler is obviously he's my 3rd. He's an amazing player. I think there's actually a good situation where I do think this is a tier, and there might even be one more or so on it. But Eckler is one of those that is surprisingly. He's not necessarily underrated, but he's never the guy you're kind of going out to get. But what I love about him is obviously his floor was always boosted by how good of a receiver he was. And we saw that last year. He had 94 targets as a running back, and the entire offense with Herbert and everything is consistently good. And we think Herbert is even going to take a step up. What makes me feel even better is he had over 200 carries for the first time ever as a running back. Before that, his highest was 132. So he stayed healthy. They use him in the pass game. They're using him as the primary rusher even now. And he is a freak athlete. I know he's a smaller running back, it looks like, but he really is a freak. So everything is pointing in the right direction. I have no issue with that. I did put Derrick Henry as number 2, but I don't think that is going to be surprising either. We're seeing him do things. If it wasn't for the injury, he'd probably be number 1.
Yeah, I think so.
And we're seeing him do things in the last few years that you might not see again. The amount of carries he's taking, the amount of yardage, touchdowns, the team is built around him. Jonathan Taylor is only in this will be his 3rd year. He's on that track, but Derrick Henry is so much more of a dominating figure, just physically, even more gifted than Taylor, which is saying a lot. Yep. That he's for me, he's too hard to pass up on. Because that offense did not get necessarily better. I think it is still 100% give him the ball. And even if he loses some carries, which I expect he will, if he's healthy, come day 1, that'll be just fine. He had 219 carries and he only played half the season last year. Yeah. But that probably is also why he got hurt.
That's part of it is the workload plus the foot injury makes you like, I don't know. But he is my 4th and you're 2nd. Is that right?
Yeah, my 2nd.
So you're 2nd, my 4th. So that means the next player, Christian McCaffrey, is my 3rd. He's your 4th. Again,
I
same
feel
thing.
like he actually has more unknowns.
Yes, he does. He does. And I don't know why I put him ahead of Derrick Henry, to be honest. I just feel like there's less mileage.
He's had more time to.
He's had different injuries.
Yes, he's had more time to heal up. Actually, to be honest,
less carries. So again, I think McCaffrey, it's a risk, really is. But if he works out, he works out, and he's awesome.
Yeah.
So there's a risk all over the board here, though, in this little tier. Everyone's had injury problems lately. It just is. It's a risk. So McCaffrey's fourth, and I think it's the same. It's just there's injury potential. So Taylor, Eckler, Henry, McCaffrey's our top four. That is the top four consensus as well.
Is it really? After we put ours together, that's funny.
That is the top four consensus, but McCaffrey is going actually sixth in ADP. If I look at this right, he's going sixth in ADP, but he's actually
who's going over him? Cook.
Let me see.
And trying to think who else would be.
Cook. Najee Harris.
Oh, Harris. Okay.
Is actually going ahead of him in ADP. That is not in the actual consensus ranks, but that's. I don't know. I don't know if I'd go that far. I mean, I wouldn't go that far based on my ranks. But next up, number 5, Delvin Cook is both of our number 5s. Again, though, there is some always injury. You like almost always expect Delvin to miss a game or two, right? Or be a little banged up.
I'll be all these guys like
it's everywhere. So I'm trying not to hold it too much against him. But Madison is there.
And every year he does miss a few, but he doesn't miss, besides for his rookie year, he does not miss significant time. I mean, the second year is kind of a hard one too, but the last 3 years, 14, 14, and 13, does that worry me a bit, but he's so much more talented than a lot of these other guys, and he's still carrying the ball 250 to 300 times. He's really phenomenal.
Oh, actually, I was looking. Eckler has dropped below Cook now in consensus ranks. In ADP, Eckler's 2, but in consensus ranks, he's 5th.
Really?
Interesting.
Oh, yeah.
Interesting right there. So that's the top 5 consensus as well, are those 5 we just went over. Number 6 becomes Joe Mixon for us. He's my 6th, your 7th. He was good last year. Bengals are good. Joe Mixon as like a middle first-round type pick. I feel it's relatively safe. He doesn't have much competition there. He's one of the few that just doesn't have much competition.
Actually, with the team getting better as well, that helps his game a significant amount. There's no doubt about it. Besides for 2020 when he got hurt, his numbers have been very kind of just steady. The only difference really is he was able to get in the end zone, 13 times rushing, compared to his next highest was 8 because they just weren't as good of a team. So now that they're getting in the red zone a lot more, that number is shot up. I don't think that really changes. I think he's a very, very safe pick this year.
Number 7 is Alvin Kamara, your 6th. He's actually my 9th. But it's I don't know.
Yeah, this one is an interesting one because
I'm trying not to really factor in any kind of off-field stuff because we haven't heard anything.
That is the only reason right now. I can't imagine him escaping with nothing.
Yeah.
So he will probably move down. But every time I look at his numbers and I want to downgrade him, or I did this year because I keep seeing that looming, suspension. I look at that and he just catches the ball too damn much.
Last year was interesting. They had Jameis was out, and it was they had some
weird team.
Taysom Hill and who else was even playing?
And they had no one at wide receiver, and now they've completely revamped it.
Yeah, I'm gonna try not to. It's hard though because he only did it with Drew Brees. And he hasn't done it with anybody else yet, so we'll see how that plays out. He's 10th in consensus ranks. He's 11th in ADP. So, it could be a steal. It could be a risk.
I don't want to – and this is like – I can't put too much onto this either, but you do always worry about the eventually getting a little more injury prone, right? And a lot of these guys are going to be like 27, like getting into their late 20s. That always seems like when it happens – the interesting part for me when I was looking at like his rushing receiving numbers, because receiving is really where he was like bread and butter. For the first 4 years, he was like at 100 targets. Last year, he did miss time. He only played 13 games, and he still got to 67 targets, which makes me think they're still going to try to use him the same way with Jameis, and you still have you'll have Landry, you have Olave, you'll have Michael Thomas, hopefully. You shouldn't be able to just focus on him. But last year, it does show that they didn't know what to do because his rushing numbers actually went up a considerable amount. He rushed 240 times in only 13 games. It doesn't sound like a lot for other backs. For him, it is, though, because he's never hit 200 before. So I think they go back to the game plan that really helped him out. And really, once again, it all comes back to, is the offense going to be a lot better than it was last year? Because his rushing TDs every other year are just ridiculous.
Yep.
And it's always when
every other year. Last year was the
every
down
other year.
Yeah.
So not saying I don't think it'll go back to him scoring 14 to 16, which is what his rushing touchdowns were at. But I can see him getting back to maybe double digits, and that'd be well enough to stay in the top 10.
You're not getting after Taylor. You're just getting it's all question marks.
Yeah,
it is big time question marks. Number 8, I just think there's some question marks. Najee Harris. He's both of our number 8s, and I don't even know if I like this. The more I think about it, I don't know. I think because I'm not sure.
I think he is actually my safe. Why I have him at number 8. He's actually safe in the realm that he's going to get a lot of carries.
Okay, yeah.
He wasn't even actually
3.9 yards per carry. He caught a lot of passes for 2 yards because Ben Roethlisberger couldn't throw the ball. Without Ben, are those checkdowns there? Remember he had like 14 catches in one game?
Right.
He had 74 catches, 94 targets in 17 games. Those 74 catches were only for 467 yards. That's it. 3 touchdowns. Ran the ball in for 7 touchdowns, but 307 carries, 1,200 yards. 1,200 yards looks good, but that's 3.9 yards a carry. I just don't know what it's going to be like. What the Steelers team's going to be like.
I know, and what worries me even more so is we're kind of like, you could rag on Roethlisberger for his last year if you really wanted to. He performed admirably for where he was at. His arm just wasn't there anymore.
Right.
But is it going to be any better?
True.
Because you're about to have a very young quarterback or perhaps someone that is going to turn the ball over, where Roethlisberger wasn't bad in that aspect, really. Like, he could still command the field. You're going to have either Trubisky or you're going to have a rookie.
The thing keeping him here, though, is everybody has question marks. So because of it, you're right. He does seem safe in a...
Well, he's going to get a crap ton of work.
The work's there, right? Yeah, that's where I'm at with him, too.
I mean, his first year, he got 307 carries. That is pretty phenomenal. 1,200 yards. Like, if you're giving him 300 carries, which I can't see them not doing, like, maybe not 300. Give him 270. That's a lot of carries still. He's going to be up here. And he only got 7 TDs off of that, so I don't really feel like that number is going to fall off considerably. So I think he is a very safe back end top 10 guy. I think that's why we both put him at 8.
And then 9 is Nick Chubb. He actually tied with Najee for the rank because I had Nick Chubb 7th and you had him 9th, so they tied for the rank. And Nick Chubb, he to me it's almost weird how he falls a little bit. I guess the Kareem Hunt factor is there, and then I guess the overall team factor. Now there's rumors last week if Deshaun Watson could have a massive suspension, like a year suspension.
They're talking about an entire year.
So what are they going to do? Are they going to keep Baker around? Like, what's going to happen there? Like, Baker still hasn't been traded, but he doesn't want to play for them.
That's what I'm wondering. It's like I don't like where this is headed for the Browns in general, and I love Chubb.
I do too.
But at the same time, I'm like, okay, you do have Hunt. Will you be able to pass at all?
And that's the thing. Maybe not. They're going to run the ball a lot. And Nick Chubb, like I think I've talked about this, I don't know, a month or so ago. His yards per carry every year. I mean, I try not to read into yards per carry all the time. But when it's 5.25, 5.6, and 5.5, that's a pretty good sample size right there of what he is. Because Najee's 3.9. I'm not going to read into that too much because it's just not. But when you're over 5 every single year of your career, that's pretty impressive. He had 228 carries in only 14 games last year.
Yeah. He does not catch the ball hardly at all.
He does not. But
and the question too, I do wonder is his carries. They weren't very good last year, obviously. Like offensively, they struggled, but they still gave him the ball quite a bit. But Kareem Hunt was hurt a lot, and he only got Chubb was able to do all that with like 228 carries. My worry is they split the carries a little more, and they're not very good, and they don't get in the red zone. I love Chubb. He still shows up in my top 10, but his worries are more about the team, but they are real.
Well, and there's a lot of Kareem Hunt trade rumors out there. There really is. I don't know if it'll happen. I kind of feel like it won't, but there's a lot of those rumors are out there.
I feel like they're going to need – I mean, it would probably be smart if you were like, we're going to punt this year.
And they have Dearness Johnson who can be a backup. He was fine when he played.
I think he showed up in my like very, very early list of what could be like a deep sleeper.
Yeah.
Because – if Kareem Hunt got traded, because I was really like, there's no way you can pay all these guys.
Yeah, you can't.
And if you have a year where you don't think you're going to be that good, go ahead and trade Kareem Hunt, which is a great, valuable asset for a team. Like anyone would love to have the guy now. So, and have Dearness Johnson as a backup, and he would get a ton of work. That would be unbelievable.
So let's go to number 10. So there's a lot of question marks here, I would say. Aaron Jones becomes number 10. He's your 10th, my 12th. He falls number 10 for us. The question marks become he only had 171 carries last year. That's that's honestly, A.J. Dillon started to take a big role. But how everyone has the question marks though. So yes. A.J. Dillon had more carries than Aaron Jones last year. That is I don't know what to make of that. So I guess we're both kind of like erring on the side of we still think it's Aaron Jones, but we might be wrong.
Yeah, we could be. Well,
and this is one that preseason talk is really going to affect where my final rank of Aaron Jones is.
Yes.
How much is A.J. Dillon playing? What's really happening in training camp preseason? Yes, A.J. Dillon had 2 more games, so that's where he ends up getting more carries. It was more of a split before that. But he had more carries, and he did not have more catches. He was still behind him by about 20 catches. I don't know. I don't know what to think about this.
I don't either. And the thing that really intrigues me about this one is Aaron Jones can catch the ball really well.
Yeah.
Right now, they don't have that go-to guy. I think that Davante Adams leaving the team doesn't necessarily kill Aaron Rodgers or what they can do in the passing game, but I do think that it is going to put a giant crimp in their style when it comes to red zone. So I think that a lot of those could go to the running backs.
Mm-hmm.
Not all of them have to go to Aaron Jones for that to make that worthwhile. And even more so if they can't figure out, once again, if they don't add someone, the rookies don't come on early, you could actually see the attempts, which the last few years have been a ton for Aaron Rodgers, obviously being MVP and whatnot. But you could actually see that go down a little bit. Mm-hmm. And even more so, the last 2 years throwing the ball, touchdown-wise, 48 and then 37. Before that, it was 26 and 25, and that's when Aaron Jones was going crazy. I think there's plenty of room for him to be a very safe pick. But you're absolutely right. I don't know exactly how this will end up, but this one's much more me trying to read the tea leaves of what that offense is going to look like.
It's not like Aaron Jones was getting less work because he wasn't as productive when he got the work. He was still good.
No.
His work, he had 4.7 yards per carry last year.
But Aaron Rodgers with Davante Adams were just
that's all they were.
Unstoppable.
Aaron Jones had more catches last year than he's ever had, more touchdowns than he's ever had catching the ball.
Yep.
So it just 2019 he had 16 rushing touchdowns, and that's what boosted him. His yards per carry were actually better last year.
And how much
than 2019?
A.J. Dillon, how many catches did he have?
He had 34 catches.
Okay, so they worked him in, but it wasn't anything too
but
crazy.
It wasn't as much as Aaron Jones. He's definitely going to play. But how much is this different than when it was Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams? They used to do the same thing. It's not going to be honestly probably that much different. So as of now, Aaron Jones is going to sit number 10 for us. We'll see how that plays out. But everyone after here has question marks too, and that's why he's there. Number 11, Deandre Swift. He's my 10th, your 13th. Injury concerns here too.
Yeah.
And the team's not very good, but I think it can sometimes work to Swift's favor. But there's been a lot of times where he just kind of disappeared.
That's the inconsistency is what worries me, and I like what Detroit is doing. I'm a big DeAndre Swift guy. I think that he can be legit because he is such a good pass catcher as well. But they added all these other guys. Mm-hmm. I just wonder. I worry that they will take away more rushing attempts from him too.
Yep.
And once again, it comes down to the touchdown factor. Like how often are you going to be in the red zone? Who does that go to? That's why just question mark. But I think he's an incredibly talented upside kind of guy.
Yep. It just needs to stay healthy too and be more consistent. Number 12, Saquon Barkley. My 13th, your 11th. Let's see. I'm curious where he's going here.
I really wanted to put him up higher.
Me too.
But I'm once again, I'm waiting on to hear if the Giants are a giant dumpster fire again.
So Saquon he's ranked 15th right now in consensus. Yeah. So I think this is where value comes in is Saquon. If you get Saquon as your second running back, I think that's a win.
It's hard to pass up on him.
It's a contract year for him too. He needs to perform. If Saquon comes out and it's last year all over again, he's not getting that second contract. He's not getting that big contract.
Right.
He needs to have this year. And how much was he playing through injury last year? And that affected what he did.
Well, and yes, 100%. He was coming back from a major injury on a terrible team that couldn't pass the ball. A lot of other injuries too. Mm-hmm. I shouldn't just throw it all on they were just completely inept. They really were trying to overcome a lot. I mean, Galladay, they paid him a crap ton of money. He was hurt the entire year pretty much. You have Tony, who is a very good prospect, very good young guy, but he was hurt a ton. Pretty much there was 3 other wide receivers that were hurt. You don't really know what you have with Daniel Jones. We still don't. Mm-hmm. But that offensive line was just so bad too. I do think that they haven't I mean, I would have loved to see them maybe like make a really big move to like really lock it down, but I do think they'll be better. Saquon has overcome that. Like when his first 2 years, he was like, they weren't great, like, but he was overcoming, like he was unbelievable. The question is, can they block enough, and is he healthy enough? I'm guessing that he's going to be back healthy fully. The question will then come to how much does he have to overcome on that offensive line?
And, we think Saquon, he can do this. Like Saquon's ridiculously good, right? He can do this, but are we just remembering a Saquon that doesn't exist anymore?
We haven't seen it for 2 years. And running back, that is a rough position.
Look at Todd Gurley. He went from the best thing in fantasy football multiple years, and then all of a sudden
he did make like 2 big comebacks though. So maybe this is going to be his first.
So this is, we'll see. I want to believe that it's still there, and this is a potential like league winning move by getting Saquon as your second running back. That's kind of what I want to believe. And
God, I mean, you look at how they used him in his first year too, and I want to go back to that. 261 rushes, which is a very healthy amount. And he was unbelievable, but he had 121 targets. I don't see it going back to that. But even last year, you saw them trying to implement more and more. They were just really, really bad. But in 13 games, he still had 57 targets and 162 rushes. So you were going in the right direction, but he could only turn that into 2 rushing touchdowns. Like, this just shows you how bad they were.
All right, let's look at the next guy. Number 13 is Leonard Fournette, my 11th, your 14th.
That one's a funny one where he's the one that I'll be completely honest. I want to hear why you think he's going to be. I think 14 is good. Don't get me wrong, but he screams. Everything screams at me that he should fall off a cliff or he should be up here. And then I keep boosting him up.
There's no Ronald Jones. I mean, Leonard Fournette is 27 years old now, which is.
It seems. I know he seems like he's been around forever.
But he's a good player. Like Jacksonville, just everything went wrong in Jacksonville. He gets to Tampa. It takes him a bit, right, to get going because he just got there. Let's take away weeks 1 through 3. He only had 24 total carries in weeks 1 through 3. You go through weeks 4 through the rest of the season, and Leonard Fournette 4 through the rest of the year, he is the 6th best running back in the league over those weeks, and he missed the last 3 games. He didn't play 15, 16, 17, and he is running back 6 over those final weeks, those weeks 4 through 18, with missing 3 games there. And that he's still even. I guess it doesn't. Points per game, he's still 6th. Well, if you count Derrick Henry's 5 games he played. So he's still right there, but he's a top 10 running back when he got the opportunity. And there's no Ronald Jones. Rashad White, the rookie, is probably his competition. Keyshawn Vaughn, maybe.
You make a really good point. And the thing, too, that I really love about this one is I don't know why I feel like he's injury prone, even though he only really had 1 bad year of injury. And
he's playing on a bad team.
Yeah, and last year he was able to do all of that with only 180 rushes, which I think is, I would love to see him get 200 and then keep him fresh. What I love what they did with him last year is they used him a ton in the passing game. 84 targets he had. And even more so, it's like that wasn't the first time. Like he had 100 targets in 2019 with Jacksonville on a bad team.
In 2020, I just take away 2020 because he just got there with Tampa. I don't know. He was fine.
You make a really good point because also who is like they're going to need pass catchers because early on in the year, Godwin is going to be coming back. Like all they have is Mike Evans really, and we don't know what's going to happen with Gronk necessarily. So there might only be one primary pass catcher, and then you slot in Fournette for just a ton of work that way. So I do really like that, but it's such an aging team that it works.
He was great in their Super Bowl run in 2020.
Yeah,
in the playoff run, and then last year, weeks 4 when he finally got going. I don't remember what the situation was, why he wasn't getting Ronald Jones was getting too much work. I don't remember what happened.
No, all of those too. They're making sure that they always stayed healthy.
And once he got there, got going. He's playing well. So he's 13th overall for us, 11th for me, 14th for you.
And even more so, he posted his best yards per rush ever, 4.5, which was a great clip.
Next up, Javonte Williams. He's 14th for us, 12 for you, 14 for me. I like Javonte Williams. I think he looked really good last year, but I think we've gone over this as well. His numbers were identical to Melvin Gordon's numbers.
And Melvin Gordon's back.
And I think Melvin Gordon's back for a reason. They didn't just bring Melvin Gordon back to back up Javonte Williams. They brought Melvin Gordon back to have the same role. And I mean, what's to say he can't? He was just as good as Javonte last year.
Yeah. I do think he takes a little bit of more of a backseat because they were like split down the middle. So I do see like Javonte getting more like 250 rushes and upping his targets a little more. And that would be enough because I do think that they're going to be a much improved team because of Russell. But once again, I'm completely generating that out of nowhere. Like, we don't know what it's going to look like with Russell at the helm. Maybe they just go crazy and Melvin and him still get the exact same numbers they got last year. Or maybe even less because they're throwing so much more. I don't know. Well, but he definitely flashed, and I like the young legs. And Melvin, I would want to keep him healthy. I would want to bring his rushes down just a little bit, even though he looked great in the time when he was out there, obviously.
Yep. I think actually Melvin Gordon, it might be more of a fact that Melvin Gordon is just underrated.
Yes, he absolutely is.
That's really what I think what the thing is. Javonte's probably properly rated, and Melvin's way too underrated. I like it, the quote Melvin had where he told George Patton, the GM for the Broncos, I told him, I'm not going to lay down. I'm not going to lay down, man. Like, he says, I know a lot of people are wanting me to take a back seat. I get it. It's been like that for a while. He's like, thanks for the motivation, everybody.
Yeah, I mean, that's great. I mean, basically, who doesn't love Gordon?
It's not Javonte's backfield in his mind.
No.
To me, for him, it's a split.
I honestly feel like that is better for Javonte too, though.
Yep.
Because there's plenty of work to go around. Did you actually? I saw it was I think Bussin' with the Boys and Melvin Gordon was on, and he actually had a great line where he talked about how he thinks like in 5 years or whatever the running back position will be dead. And I was like, oh, this is great. I could talk about a whole podcast just about that. But yeah, anyway, it was really interesting, and I like the way he's approaching it. And he's absolutely right because no one wants to pay running backs, and he's getting to an age where, you're worried about them falling off a cliff. But I think he's definitely, after seeing him last year, he's definitely got at least a year left in him.
The thing you say, that's I think just where he's underrated. Javonte's probably about where he should be. James Conner's 15th. He's 18th for you, 15 for me. This one's interesting. I think he was really good. I don't know if I necessarily 100% believe it. I think he just feels like it could be a safe type pick. No Chase Edmonds. He was, but it was a lot of touchdowns.
I was going to say,
but maybe that can continue. So
maybe it could, but it was just a ridiculous amount. Like, I mean, what do you have? 15 rushing. Yeah, 15 rushing, 3 receiving.
Yep.
And 15 only on 202 carries.
His yards per carry sucked, but that doesn't matter in this situation. Sometimes it does. I mean, I'm not worried about it if you're getting 15 touchdowns.
Well, what I worry about once again is kind of like if they use them the same way they did in the red zone, then yeah, I mean, I'm probably low on him. But he'll be 27. They have, they'll have some new toys. I never know what is going to be how many of their QBs are going to rush in.
The other running backs they got, I don't know if they're going to try to use Kyler like that. They seem to. I feel like they shied away from it.
I feel like you have to let him run though.
You do a little bit.
I feel like he's kind of like. I mean, he's not Lamar. He's somewhere in between. But like Lamar, like if you try to take away his legs, and there's a few other quarterbacks that are like this, it changes their whole game. So that's a rough part.
This is where it becomes to me. If James Conner isn't here at like 15, Daryl Williams was vastly underrated. And that's the other key. Like James Conner, if he's the back, he's going to be here. Yeah. But if not, Daryl Williams had more of a, he just came over from Kansas City. He's going to have more of a role than we think because he's the backup at this point.
Yeah.
Daryl Williams. I don't know. Daryl Williams can play a little bit, so I wouldn't be shocked. But Daryl Williams is quite a bit down the ranks right now. So
yeah, my whole thing was like, if he loses 5-6 touchdowns, he would still have a great year.
Yeah.
His all of a sudden like that just falls off like a cliff, and all of a sudden you're in the back end of that 20. So that's kind of where I put him. But he's one that I cheer for. It always scares me when you don't see the explosive plays. It kind of just all feels like he's just smooth and it's working out for him.
Yep.
He's a great running back, but I don't know. It's hard. It's worrisome going forward.
Number 16 for us is running back 6 from last year, Zeke.
Well, I mean, we just talked about the one that was like 5th, right?
Yeah, Zeke.
Yeah. Once again, I feel like he's a value pick where I would love to get him here.
And that's overall points because he played all 17 games. His yards, his points per game would have been a little lower.
And I was once again, I was like, I'm off Zeke, and then he fell off a cliff as far as like what the general consensus was. And now I'm kind of like, well, he can't fall off that much. And you did lose Amari Cooper, even though I love their other guys they have, but Gallup is coming back and Pollard is really, really good. I think he's underrated as well as a backup. But also I feel like Dak is getting a little like last year he got overhyped. And Zeke is going to be somewhere in the middle, and I feel like he's not going to completely fall off a cliff. I just feel like he's going to be in that, like, he just will be inconsistent, and he'll probably be more in that, like, 12 to 14 range because I don't see him getting hurt, even though I have him all the way at 16. But he's an insanely talented guy.
But you just saw it where it just didn't feel like he's the same old Zeke. But was he hurt all year? And that's what it is. This could, again, maybe we're getting great value here. And I think you're thinking, you'll take one last chance on Zeke in this range.
Without a doubt, because if you're getting him here, I mean, the crazy part is when you're like, I can get Zeke that, I mean, the last, what has he been the last? I mean, he has never, 2020, not even last year. Last year, he was 6th overall. His lowest finish ever as a running back was 11, and that was 2 years ago. That was when Dak got hurt. So, I mean, he was 2nd, 9th, 5th, 4th, 11th, 6th. Yes, do I think that it's probably about time that Pollard takes more, that he falls off a little bit? I do, but what does falling off look like? And can I get him as, like, my 3rd running back, maybe? Like, in some drafts?
Good, yeah.
And if I get him as my 2nd, it's like, that's wonderful. So, I don't know. He could be another one that completely that has a bounce back year, but I don't see him getting back to 300 carries when he was really good. I see him,
Pollard's too good.
Yeah, I see him still more around that anywhere from 225 to 250, and that is kind of caps his upside.
17th for us is David Montgomery. 16th for me. 20th for you. I'm bored of him again.
Yeah, I mean, he's fine.
He's probably going to get the majority of the work.
I went with upside with a bunch of guys above him.
Yeah, it's more of I just think he's a safer pick, most likely. But Khalil Herbert's not.
He's a poor man's Najee Harris.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know. Well, we'll see how it plays out. I don't need to talk about David Montgomery. 18th for us, J.K. Dobbins. 19th for me, 17th for you. Yeah. We still believe in it. I think that's.
I'm super excited to see what he does this year. Yeah,
I mean, he should be the guy there, right? He should be.
Yeah. But I mean, what does that mean?
I don't know because I don't know. Last year was so weird with all the backs they used. So J.K. Dobbins, I'm going to take a shot on him in a lot of situations. I love the talent. I love the potential in that offense.
Yes. And in his rookie year, he had 134 carries, which you forget that he played. 134 carries. He turned 9 of them into touchdowns. That was when I believe Ingram was still number one.
He was great at the end of that year.
Yeah. And he averaged 6 yards a carry. And it's a little bit different. They have figured out the offense a little more, but I think that this guy is really dynamic. And if he turns into the version of Baltimore's bell cow, which is not the same as other teams, he's going to be phenomenal. And he hardly caught any balls that year too.
Over the last half of that season, he was running back 9.
Yep.
And that's what made us really love what we were seeing coming into last year. He was running back 9. It was, and people were ranking James Robinson ahead of him. Yeah, remember those days. All right, and our final ones here, we're at 19, 20, 21 are actually a tie, so might as well bring them all up. We can bring in number 21. We got Cam Akers. He's 22 for you, 17 for me, and I thought I was a little low. You're even lower.
Yeah, I'm not a huge Cam Akers guy.
I'm not either. So I was actually slightly lower. He's going 14th and 15th in ADP right now. Is where he's going. I'm okay with dropping him like you did. To be honest, he came off the Achilles and didn't look great. I know it's hard.
I'll be honest. He looked better than I thought he was going to, but he didn't have that explosion or anything.
We also weren't Cam Akers guys last year. We thought the hype got out of control.
Oh, it was out of control. I mean, clearly.
I don't think Darrell Henderson's going to go anywhere. He's still there. He's going to play.
Yeah, and you still have obviously you have the great connection with Stafford and Kupp.
I like him as a back end running back too, though. It's not saying he's not a running back too. I just don't like him. He's venturing ahead of ADP wise. He's ahead of a few guys here. He's ahead of James Conner. I don't know. James Conner seems safer. He's right there with Aaron Jones. Yeah, he just, I don't know. I don't love it.
Yeah, I disagree with the Aaron Jones one like wholeheartedly. I don't think Cam Akers is going to run away with the position. I mean, you're still going to want to keep him healthy. I'm not convinced that they're like a run first team. They're not. So, and I kind of worry about a Super Bowl hangover, if I'm being completely honest with that team. They lost a lot of really good defensive players. You do wonder if they're just going to be slightly different. Mm-hmm. I don't think they're going to be quite as explosive. So I don't know. I'm not a Cam Akers guy. Anyway.
Oh, I'm completely different, but I just looked at ADP here. Javonte Williams is 8th.
Okay. I knew that one would keep going, but
the other guys here, Elijah Mitchell. We actually had a pretty big gap, which is funny because I
thought you were going to be really high.
I really like Elijah Mitchell, but right now I'm being hesitant. I'll change it as we go.
Yes,
he's 24th for me right now. He's 15th for you. Yeah. If this is more of a if he is the guy, 15th is probably
right now. That's how I'm looking at it.
And I'm just kind of like, I'm still waiting to see. He's 24th in ADP.
Really?
Now, so he could be a good value.
Yeah. I know people aren't as high on him, but the only thing I saw last year was positive things.
And if he's the guy, he's going to be there.
And also, Debo, I really don't think they're going to run with him as much, especially if they don't have the big contract. He had a lot of touchdowns that took away from that. You have Trey Lance. I think you have to go back to the classic San Fran, pound the ball out, and you can support 3 running backs in that offense. If Elijah Mitchell stays healthy, which I have no reason to think he won't, I think that he will be a very safe player, and that's why I have him 15. I would love to have him, but there are question marks. He's not a marquee name yet. They have Sermon that hasn't done anything yet, but he's a big guy. Maybe he steals all the goal line work.
They drafted that. God, I can't remember the guy's name right now. What's his name? Davis Price. I'm not. Some people are. I actually.
Once again, they're not going to only run one ball carrier. And Sermon hasn't established himself either. So I think Mitchell is the only one we know of.
I posted something on Instagram a while back about Elijah Mitchell, one of my favorite players, and somebody said, "Oh, they just drafted his replacement." Like, what are we talking about here?
I mean, no. I mean, I don't think so. But maybe. I mean, he could be.
Maybe though.
Every running back looks really good in that offense. So, maybe. He could. But I mean, look at what Mostert looked like. Awesome. Wilson and. I mean, shit. I think Wilson's still around. Like,
he is.
They have plenty, and
Hastings still around too.
Trey Lance is the one that really like. I don't think that. First of all, they're not a great passing team either way, but if Trey Lance is there, they have to rely on the run. And Debo, everyone knows you have to take Debo away.
Yep.
If they do that, then it's going to be run. Kittle, for the love of God, how do we get it to Debo? So anyway, I like him.
And then the final guy who's tied here is Travis Etienne, my 20th, your 19th. We're slightly higher on Etienne than the rest. Not a lot anymore. He's going 23 in ADP right now. And consensus rank I don't have right now. Let's see. His consensus rank is 24. So we are slightly ahead yet on Etienne, but I feel like I've heard a little bit of people coming around and thinking he's going to be used in, that pass catching role. And that's what we loved about him. And I still think we're going to be slightly ahead where we can pick up Etienne, and I'd like to get. Problem is, I can't get like Etienne and Dobbins both.
I know.
But sometimes depending on how your draft falls. But then, do you want that much risk? I don't want both of them.
And Etienne is even more of a risk. Like I once again, I was relatively high on him last year because of the upside, but we've never seen the guy play yet.
He's not played it.
He already got hurt once.
At least Dobbins showed it.
Yeah.
I really love that potential, though.
Yes, and that's 100% potential.
I mean. And there's so many people that are just done with Trevor Lawrence, too. I mean.
After 1 year.
This guy was a generational prospect, and he got to play on a team with Urban Meyer, who was just atrocious as a
coach. He really
Urban Meyer
was
terrible. Don't judge Trevor Lawrence off last year. If he can come in and be the prospect everyone thought he was, and he has a back like that to use, it's going to be special.
And they really went out to – and, he didn't have Etienne, which I think was a large part why they drafted Etienne in the first place. But they went out and they got wide receivers they think will be good for Lawrence, even though maybe I don't agree with how much money they pay all these guys. But they went out and they really did set it up so he should be much better. And I would say this about a lot of the QBs. Like, everyone wants to say after 1 year you're done, but I don't think it's that way for him. I don't think it's that way for the youngster, in New York. I don't, even though I'm down on Trey Lance, I just don't think he's like automatically going to be good. I think these guys need some playing time.
Mm-hmm. And James Robinson at this point looks like he's not going to be ready for training camp. We'll see what it means like in the season, but
I mean that only helps Etienne. I mean James Robinson will be used when he's there, and he should be.
He'll still be used. I'm not concerned about that. Etienne's receiving ability is going to put him over the top.
Yeah.
So all right, there we go. There's running backs. Next week we'll talk some wide receivers. That'll do it for today. Talk to you guys next time.